Is that the same sort of plea you make with the banks? The legal loan sharks, what people call it. Compassion.
All right. Not just compassion. I suppose that, put it this way, whoever loans money, of course they expect to get back their money, right? Just like if we were to borrow, we have to make the effort to pay back. You know, it's not your money. You borrow, you have to pay back. You take a book from the library, you loan it from the library, you have to return. You know, it says that if we borrow money, we have to pay back plus interest. Okay, after all, it's a profit-making institution. All right, they are accountable to their shareholders. Okay, so for us is that people who come to us for legal debts, unsecured debts, to be specific, like credit cards, credit lines, you know, things like that. What we do is that, of course, first we help them to understand their own situation. You'll be surprised, people are generally very confused. When they're in debt, they are very confused.
They're frightened.
They're frightened, they're confused, they do not know what to do, and sometimes they don't even know they have a problem. Okay? So what we want them to understand is that first you must understand your situation, and then you decide what you want to do. Because what we realize, or personally my experience, is that if you know that you want to pay back, you will be focused and you will do the necessary things. But for those who, you know, still haven't made up their mind to pay or not to pay, then they will come with all sorts of excuses and they don't do the right thing. You know, they continue to spend. They continue to give excuses. So, oh, I cannot live without my car. No, but as we all know, like, you know, car is very expensive to maintain, you know, but not depending on how much you earn and whether you need it or not, you know what I mean? If you don't need it, don't have to keep it. And by letting go your car, you may have more resources to make repayment. So this is something that we will work with them, and then of course we let them understand their situation. We help them to work out a budget to live with, you know, and then if to help them to find enough surplus to put up a reasonable proposal payment to their banks, and hopefully the banks have a better understanding of their debt situation, their profile, you know, and they will give them a chance to pay according to what the debtors propose.
So do you see necessarily an increase in people living on such credit?
I can't say whether there's an increase, okay? But basically I would say that a lot of people, especially maybe the younger ones, sometimes, you know, when you start working, you suddenly earn so much money compared to the pocket money that you received before. You may get $500 pocket money before, but now you are earning like, taking home like 1,500, 2,000 or whatever. It's a lot of money, right? Okay? So you just start spending. And sometimes if you forget that, you know, when you spend, okay, if you spend your own earnings, is one thing. But if you spend on borrowed money, is another thing. You see? Now, and a lot of times, credit facility asks you to make minimum payment, which is 3% of $50, whichever is higher, right? Initially, it's not that difficult to handle. But as you accumulate, when your outstanding balance grow, your minimum payment will grow. You will come to a point of time that you just can't service. By making payment to your minimum payment, you won't have any more left to pay for your daily expenses. So you start to roll. And because you're still paying, you don't see that you are actually having a problem. And then there are people who think that I'm paying what? But the thing is that, what are you paying? Are you paying in full every month, or are you just paying the minimum payment? To them say, well, I pay my minimum payment. Then why are you not paying full? You know, because they don't really have enough to pay full. So, but because they are making payment every month, they don't see that they are actually in debt.
So, and they're under the illusion that they actually can fund or can repay their debt.
Until it comes to a point that perhaps the minimum payment is also not serviceable. Then when you come to that stage, frankly speaking, your debt is really
huge. A bit too late.
Yes, because based on our stats, okay, the people that we counseled and managed to put up a repayment plan for them, they owe an average of about 26 months of their take-home pay. Even you work for 2 years, you don't use a single cent of your take-home pay, you know. You can't even pay off, you know.
That explains why people feel so frightened and so lost, and they lose clarity of mind and all that. Okay, recently, actually, the government released a draft moneylenders bill, okay, for public consultation. Well, the consultation period ended last month. Some changes to the money lending landscape, if you will, if this bill is actually enforced. So let's take a look quickly at the Moneylenders Bill, or MLB 2008. It will replace the Moneylenders Act. The MLB will relax existing controls and enhance the regulatory and enforcement framework. Well, one of the major changes proposed
Yeah, is to do away with the cap on interest rates a licensed moneylender can charge. So currently it stands at 18% for unsecured loans and 12% for secured loans.
Also to be removed, the prohibition against charging compounded interest.
Another change will be the way of dispersing and repaying loans. Other than a cross-check, borrowers can also repay their loans via electronic funds transfers, for example.
While the regulatory and enforcement framework will be enhanced to give the registrar more grounds to refusing to issue, revoke and suspend a license, and also the power to impose and amend conditions of the license.
Yep. The bill also requires licensed moneylenders to maintain certain standards and practices, for example. So only granting loans on application in writing and informing prospective borrower on terms of loan.
Yes, the registrar will also be given more investigative powers, meaning they can actually go into premises to inspect without notice. Yep. So what we see here are a relaxation of certain controls and a step up in terms of regulatory controls. Okay, but we've also heard sob stories from those who have borrowed through legal and illegal means. Now let's just have a quick look at another alternative in the market. Well, a company that champions responsible lending for responsible needs.
Let's have a look. Desperate for a personal loan and don't know whom you can turn to? You may want to explore legal avenue of borrowing like GE Money. But let's first find out how is this company different from other lenders in the market.
So how is it different from, say, banks or pawn shops or loan sharks?
I think we are known as a consumer finance company. We have sophisticated large-scale operations that enable us to meet a whole different range of customers. For Easy Cash, I think what is unique is that we came in and provided for a previously underserved segment of customers who did not have access to the banks in terms of personal loans.
Because they earn a lower income bracket.
I think there is a minimum criteria for all loans, especially bank loans, which is 30,000 per annum, and then for Easy Cash, we are lending to those who earn between 20,000 and 30,000.
I also understand that there's James, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So how are they different?
Okay, James is the product that's designed for the more sophisticated customer who earns about 30,000 per annum. What we've provided through James is one of the most extensive and flexible range of repayment options, because we did our market survey and research, and we found that customers, when they need money and when they take up a loan, whether it's for education purposes or whether it's for home renovations or sometimes even for the payment of medical bills, they face a lot of unexpected events in life, and they appreciate a break in a repayment or flexibility in repayment options.
Every time you borrow money, you may land yourself into good or bad debts. But do you know how are they different from each other?
A good debt is something that you take where you can, it's for something that's a real need, for example, medical bills, or even for education where there's a return of investment, I would say. A bad debt would be something you can't afford, or for frivolous needs that are necessary, that aren't encouraged.
How would GE Money deal with loan applicants who are likely to get themselves into bad debts?
If, say, like, I am coming to GE Money, I want to take up a loan, so I can go for cosmetic surgery. But you know that my income can't afford me to do that. So how would you advise me not to take up the loan?
Okay, I think if it were me, I would just encourage the customer to wait for a point where his earning capacity is at a comfortable level and he's able to afford his monthly expenditures as well as this added cosmetic surgery.
What would be some of the advice that you give to potential customers before they take up a loan?
Okay, we always, as part of our commitment to responsible lending, we always ensure that customers are able to afford their loan and they only borrow what they can afford and nothing more. Secondly, we also ensure that they understand the terms and conditions of the loans clearly. We even have specially designed forms where we clearly highlight in different colors and boxes to ensure that customers are taken through the terms and conditions and they know what they're getting into and they know what they're expected to meet and fulfill. The other thing, of course, is we advise them to avoid multiple sources of credit because it's always easier to manage, a certain reasonable number of credit. And of course, we also spell it out to them at the start that, you know, you have to meet your monthly installment payments promptly. It's not all about just making your payments, but promptly, so that you avoid late payment charges and administrative charges, because we want customers to be fully aware. And we want to be clear, transparent.
Okay, one of the key things about the subprime crisis, for example, is that people with low income are borrowing beyond their means, meaning they actually do not have the capacity to return the huge loan that they are servicing. Okay, do you think that it's such a case when, you know, something like Easy Cash is offering lower income families or lower income individual the capacity to get a loan?
Let's put it this way: if there is no one going to loan to the lower income, where are they going to turn to if they really need the money? So yes, you see, you go to a loan shark, it's worse, isn't it? So we do have to give them an avenue, a legal avenue to borrow from. But the thing is that the lender have to be responsible, and of course we have to also educate the borrower. You know, why are you borrowing? What is the purpose of borrowing? You see, are you borrowing for a need or are you borrowing for a want? Of course, you shouldn't be borrowing for a want.
TV, car.
And the other thing is that, before we take up a loan, do I have the capacity to repay? You see, do I need to borrow now? Can I wait to buy later? Can I save up for it instead of borrowing? Ask yourself all these questions. Why borrow?
So when you have no money, be patient. Okay.
So those are your tips for responsible borrowing. Okay. How about Reverend Tan? What are some of the tips or advice you give your clients who are up to their necks?
Normally, we will remind them that debt is not their main problem. Their main problem may be their life. Let's say why they ended up this kind of situations. So they have to address their root cause, and also they have to face it rather than run away from it. They have to dare to withstand that kind of a struggle they need to go through when they are thinking of breaking their so-called addictive cycle.
So you actually address their habits and their attitudes towards money.
Or borrowing, even the vicious cycle of borrowing. They have to stop, and then with the support of the other people, they are able to start anew.
Okay, so your advice is to address the root issue and as well as get peer support around you.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for being on our show tonight. I'm afraid we've run out of time. But before we go, here's a Razorism of the day, especially when the loan sharks come a-knocking. As famous American scientist Benjamin Franklin said, maybe some sort of an ode to responsible borrowing. He says, creditors have better memories than debtors.
Oh, so that's it for Point Blank tonight. But don't go away, stay Razorized, cause Razor Top 5 is up next.